Hello people, welcome to Physics Wala Only IAS. So, we've already seen paper 1's analysis. We saw the do's and don'ts. We saw how the questions have been framed. All of that we saw. Now we come to paper 2. And when we come to paper 2, let us see what is the nature of the questions. Again, no clear discernible pattern that we can say as such, because if you see 1 3 1 3 4 1 1 2 2 2 double 1 3 3, so it's again what is it, a mixed bag. You cannot specifically say any single chapter is like very important or any single chapter is not so important. You cannot say that, because if you notice it here, in 2018 the civil services chapter was very important because it had 5 questions, but when we come to 2023 we are seeing there are only 2 questions. So the bottom idea is very simple. You cannot give too much of emphasis on any one chapter, nor can you let go of any one chapter. You have to go through all the syllabus. This is very, very important, because one of the biggest mistakes that most aspirants make is they tend to take a risk with a few chapters, saying that this is easy, this is not important, that is not going to come, all of that. Never ever do that, because somehow it always happens that the chapter which you would have skipped or which you would have thought is not important, from that chapter alone a very easy question can come. So this we have seen in paper 1 also. There were a couple of direct questions with regard to MIS, with regard to Mary Parker Foley, with regard to motivation, with regard to Hertzberg, etc., two-factor theory, all of that. So similar to that, you always should expect direct questions to come even from paper 2 also. But there again, the important fact is what? The important fact is how good you are in bringing in paper 1 concepts into paper 2. Because paper 2, the interesting thing is, except for a few topics, most of the topics are what? Most of the topics are actually like general topics. Topics that you may find in GS paper 3 or GS paper 2. So you should not write this answer as a general studies answer. You should interlink the theories from paper 1 into your answer. The more you do it, the better marks you can score it over here. And yes, the key word here is organic. It should organically, the thinker should come there, the theory should come there in the paper. So without any further delay, let us go into the question paper. So section A, 4 questions. And then section B, you had again the remaining 4. Clear? So starting with Kautilya's Arthashastra is a theoretical work on the state and statecraft. Comment. It's a theoretical work on what a state should be and how you can carry out the statecraft. That is what it means. And it's a comment question. Comment question means what is our expectation? Yes, it is a theoretical work on state and statecraft. What are the reasons? What should an ideally a state be? What should statecraft be? What should you do with your enemies? What should you do with your adversaries? What should you do about corruption? What should you do with administration? These aspects are still relevant today. Correct? But then in some aspects, you cannot follow Kautilya's administration. What are those aspects? Why it is not a theoretical then? Why you cannot apply it universally? Because context to context, it may keep varying. That is the point. Theoretical, see, when you say it is a theoretical work, theory means what? That theory should be universally applicable, but that is not the case. Theory cannot be universally applied. Kautilya's theory can be applied to certain specific contexts, not everywhere. So in some cases you can do it, some cases you cannot. And then you need to validate that with proper examples. Does not have universal application, just like any other classical thinker's theory. Even though Kautilya cannot be considered as a classical thinker, because he did give emphasis to what? Almost the human behavior and all. But then his work is very, very important. Clear, people? Moving on. Critics sometimes argue that bureaucracy is an impediment to a nation's development. Analyze. Why bureaucracy is an impediment to nation's development? Analyze this. So why bureaucracy? So basically you can highlight the criticisms of Max Weber's bureaucracy. That is the key point here. Max Weber's bureaucracy's critics, whatever they mentioned there, that you can mention it over here. And that you can give examples for it, like self-aggrandizement behavior. How in Telangana, bureaucrats themselves agreed to see to it that bureaucracy or the senior IAS officers will all get new Kia carnivals. What is it? Self-aggrandizement behavior, the rent-seeking behavior. That you can mention. You can talk about what, how competency decreases as it keeps going higher and higher levels in the hierarchy. How it leads to overlapping. So you can keep mentioning almost all the critics of or the critical points of what Max Weber's bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, an impediment to a nation's development. That is what you should understand. National level development, at what and all levels, bureaucracy has been what? A stumbling block or a blockade. So that you need to validate with examples. And yes, it's an analyzed question. That means what? No, bureaucracy helps in national development. So those key points also you need to mention. So you can easily mention that is, for example, with regard to how bureaucracy has helped in reducing or improving rather the ease of doing business rankings, how single window clearance systems has actually helped in improving the state's performance. All of those examples you can mention. So like I told you, so you have the Nivesh portal of UP government, single window clearance system in Telangana. In Rajasthan, again, you have a one-stop shop solution for getting clearances as far as investments are concerned. So such new methods of improving investment, these you can mention, where bureaucracy is not an impediment to nation's development. You can also talk about how bureaucracy is responsible for ending child labor, how bureaucracy helps in the MPs and MLAs with local area development projects. All of that you can mention it there. So it can start off with what? Criticism of Max Weber's bureaucracy. 3-4 points you can take it from there, whatever you are comfortable with, and then to validate it, you need to give examples. Then you can talk about, no, that is not the case. Bureaucracy actually helps in development. How so? By giving a few examples again. With that, your answer will be complete. The 91st Constitutional Amendment Act successfully right-sized the Council of Ministers both at union and state levels. So did it right-size it? Did it not right-size it? So the 91st Constitutional Amendment, briefly you must mention about it. Then what should be the right size of the Council of Ministers? It all comes down to the political executive's choice, whether they want to go for more clubbing, generalist ministries or specialist ministries. That is what finally it comes down to. They need generalist ministries, means then what will happen? You can club the ministries. You need specialist ministries, means yes, there is a good chance that Council of Ministry will increase. But then what happens because of this? It is a matter of political / administrative choice. And what sort of decision making they choose at that point of time. What decision they make. Based on that, only we can say whether they will right size it or not. Clear, people? So it is a choice again. So you throw in that there, and then again you mention the positives of it, the negatives of it. Clear? Moving on. Is it true that the Finance Commission has been lending financial strength to the local bodies in India? Argue in favor of your response. So easily we are talking about Finance Commission. Brief introduction about it. Again, what article is associated with it. Then Finance Commission has been lending financial strength to the local bodies. Yes, they are lending. So basically we are talking about what? The 15th Finance Commission's suggestions. And the latest ones, what are its suggestions? So both of it, when you put it up, yes and no, based on what? FC recommendations. Yes or no based on FC recommendations. That should be the key. Where it is lacking and why it is lacking. Because ultimately, strength to the local bodies will only come from what? Only come from state executive. If state executive does not have the political willpower, then no amount of recommendations of finance commission is going to strengthen the local bodies. Delegation of legislation should happen there. Only then things will improve. Clear? Then, parliamentary democracy in India envisages elected head as the real executive of a state. Discuss. Elected head is the real head. The other one is the nominal head. So parliamentary democracy envisages this. Discuss this question. Very direct question. Straight away from polity. So the features of parliamentary democracy, like nominal head versus real head. And then, yes, it envisages the elected head as the real executive of a state. What is the reason for that? Why it is being done? How it is being made responsible to the parliament to ensure what? Accountability and control with legislature. So accountability and control is one of the chief features of parliamentary democracy. So accountability and control is ensured. Clear? Indian Prime Minister is more empowered than his British counterpart in the Westminster model of democracy. Explain. So, Indian Prime Minister, Indian PM. Now, mind you, this question is very similar to the earlier question. That is, this is a compulsory question. Okay. Now, when you move ahead, you will see that second question starts off with again almost the same premise. But here, Indian PM is pitted against what? The British PM. So where are there similarities coming in? Where are there differences coming in? So more than the similarities, it is what is the question? Indian PM is more empowered. Why he is more empowered than the British PM? What are the differences? Again, a direct question. Clear, people? So thinkers, again, if you can throw in any thinkers who supported democracy, thinkers who supports parliamentary democracy, if you can throw it in here, that will make the picture even more complete. Post-amendment period, panchayats have become a platform of competitive politics, but could not emerge as an agency of planning and service delivery. Examine. So this particular question, it is basically asking about what? Panchayats in the rural areas. Then post-amendment, why have they not become agencies, like powerful agencies of planning and service delivery? Because state will was lacking. Now this is where you will give examples, because it's an examine question where state will was lacking. So examples for that. Then where state will was there, again examples for that. On top of it, what other agencies are there today to strengthen local bodies? How are the local bodies getting their strength? Either through the legislature, through the judiciary, through bodies like finance commission. How are they getting strengthened? What are the real problems plaguing? That is, even though there is a supportive state, even though there are supportive institutions, what are the real problems facing the local bodies? Why are they not able to become agencies of planning and service delivery? Because of lack of taxation, lack of tax collection, lack of revenue, lack of fund transfer, lack of skills with the population that are living in the rural area. All that you can highlight. Then the solutions for it. Again, you can mention Fessler here. Former Chief Justice of India, Deepak Mishra, observed an efficient judiciary is the hallmark of a great nation. Comment. So, efficient judiciary. So, judiciary being efficient means here we are talking about what? Here we are talking about disposal of cases at the fastest possible time. Correct? Reducing the pendency of cases, then taking care of the under trials. So, we are basically talking about, first of all, facts and figures. How efficient the judiciary needs to be. Lower courts, how many cases are pending? High court, how many cases are pending? Supreme Court, how many cases are pending? What is the burden of under trials in the country? And then obviously what? International examples of judiciary which has become very efficient, where the number of cases have been reduced. So that example also you will give. So ideally this shows what? This shows that if the structure is poor structure, if you have poor structure in terms of what? In terms of employment, then lack of transparency, especially with regard to selection of judges, etc. There is still no clarity, lack of transparency, then lack of clarity. That is, judiciary is often marred by the fact that lower courts sometimes tend to give verdicts which goes against the principles or guidelines given by the Supreme Court, or outrightly sometimes violating the constitution principles also. So there is a lack of clarity there, which clearly shows that judiciary even still now has a lot of things to be taken care of at the grassroots level. Structure wise, clarity wise, account up or transparency wise, there is a lot of opacity involved in it. So judiciary needs to overcome all of this if it needs to become what? Efficient judiciary. Clear? India has significantly advanced in its development goals, increased efficiency in the public sector, unlocked innovation in private sector by adopting the approach of building digital public infrastructure. Elucidate 20 marks. Significantly advanced in its development goals. So what are our major development goals and how have we significantly improved in it? Let us say health indicators, how did we improve? Economic indicators, how did we improve? And education indicators, how did we improve? Insurance penetration, how did we improve? All these. So if you look into this, basically the source of this material is actually nothing but the economic survey. Okay, increased efficiency in the public sector. How? Through privatization. Then reducing steps. That is basically reducing steps. When we talk about, we are basically talking about what? Neo-Taylorism. Unlocked innovation in private sector by adopting the approach of building digital public infrastructure. So what is digital public infrastructure then? That has helped in achieving our developed goals, increase the efficiency and unlocked innovation in private sector. So for each of these, as usual, we need what? Proper examples, because we are looking at what? A 20 marker here. Clear, people? Moving on. Attempts to prepare unified and holistic plans for the country are complex and full of challenges. Discuss. One single plan for the whole country has its set of challenges. Discuss. One single plan for the whole of the country is great. Why? Two key points here. So, in a country like India, first of all, the problem is what? One size solution is not going to work always, because each state in itself has its own culture, its own social setup. So for each state has a different HDI, a different drawback, a different positive impact. Correct? So for each state it is different. That means even if we are talking about a one size solution, in some cases it may work out. Say for example, midday meal scheme, MGNREGS, Kisan scheme. So all this, in some cases it will work out, but in most of the other cases it will not work out. Why? Each state's problem or each state is unique in itself. That is where we need to factor in comparative public administration. What may work for one state may not work for the other. So if the focus is on Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, maybe in a state like UP, it makes sense. But trying to implement it with the same vigor and force in the southern states of Tamil Nadu or Kerala, which has already got very high values in terms of literacy rates, is not going to be practical. So even government of India understood that. That is why planning commission became a redundant organization and it was replaced by the more participative Niti Ayog, so as to develop solutions from the state side itself for the state's problems. And complementing that, you have the GST Council. Clear? The one size solution, midday meal scheme, etc., or almost the one best method is akin to the one best method of what? Taylor again. Correct? One solution is there, but then it may always not give you results. Comparative public administration has to be factored in because for each state a different context is there. You need to filter it through the filtering lens. Then you talk about what? Examples. How planning commission Niti Ayog and planning commission was replaced by Niti Ayog, and then you have GST Council together, which cater to what? Cater to developing solutions which are unique to each state for its unique challenges. Full stop. Clear? Excessive political interference in development process has become a cause of concern in achieving national goals. Examine. So this is again politics administration dichotomy. So the importance of politics administration dichotomy, we are factoring in that here. How it is important to be politically neutral. So political interference in development process has become a cause of concern in achieving national goals. So where and all this political interference is happening. So these type of questions are a little tricky. Why? Because you will have to give statements where it may end up criticizing one or the other political party in question. But the point here you must understand is whatever is in the public domain, you can put it up. And second thing, you have to be pro-government but anti-politics. So whoever comes into power, that is a second story. But who is in power, which is the government, you will have to be supportive of the government. You don't like the government because of X party, you love the government because of Y party, that is irrelevant. You will always support the government come what may. Clear, people? So you need to give how political interference in development process has become a cause of concern in achieving national goals. So you can easily give what? There was political interference when it came to the 3 farm bills. Correct? 3 farm bills were there. But and how it affected achieving national goals. But at other times, when it comes to external security, etc., political interference is there from all the parties, but for a positive sense. Like with regard to, let us say, external and internal security, you can talk about how regulation of AFSPA or managing our borders, we do keep what? All these parties into question, so that we stand there as a unified front. Clear, people? So that you can put it up there. Then there shall be a council of ministers with the chief minister at the head to aid and advise the governor in the exercise of his functions, except this constitutional provision is being intensively debated nowadays. Elucidate. Now let me tell you, this clash between the chief minister and the governor, this is as old as the Indian constitution. Ever since it has been found, this is a sure shot question. So this is absolutely a direct question, because this question will never go out of fashion as long as Indian democracy exists. And obviously the commissions concerned, Sarkaria, Punchi, second ARC, Supreme Court rulings, all that you can bring it here. And again, the important part about it is whatever you write should be from recent current affairs, not what has happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s and all. 20 marks. Why? This constitutional provision is being intensively debated nowadays. Whatever has happened in the recent past, the clash that has happened in the state of West Bengal, the clash that has happened between the chief minister and governor in the state of Kerala. So all those examples you can give. Plenty of examples are there. Wherever you have a non-BJP government in power, there has always been cases of what the clash between the governor and the chief minister with regard to the passage of certain bills, with regard to the passage of even, let us say, the management of the universities in the state, all of that. So you can give countless number of examples here. And what is the final provision? Like who should be at the head of what and due to what. So here you must understand, you should ultimately quote what are the Supreme Court rulings and ARC. On the basis of these only, you should finally put up your conclusion. Clear? Because again, it's an elucidate thing. Intensively debated nowadays. Which? This one. This particular provision is being intensive. Why it is being debated? Because of 1, 2, 3, 4. How many incidents can you give? That many you give here. Clear? There is a need to redefine and realign the functions of deputy commissioner or district collector. Elaborate. So there is a need to redefine, realign functions of DC or district collector. Elaborate. Elaborate means just explain this. Why you need to realign it? Realign it with what? In the current scenario. So obviously, who is the district collector? What used to be roles, the old roles of the government, of the DC? What is supposed to be the new roles? New roles and functions. Like, for example, being more proactive, being more involved, being more tech savvy, using more of artificial intelligence, all of that, being more responsive. So all of that, basically your entire, almost a combination of whatever the both traditional bureaucrats should be there, that is upholding the law. Then you also have the proactive bureaucracy, what MB2 said. Then MB3, that is each post, whatever you get, district collector, whichever district they go, they have to factor in what? The regional flavor of that place and then enact the roles, etc. there. They should always consider the socio-political, cultural setting in which they are placed before implementing the laws there. They have to respect that. It is very important, especially for example, say a state like Manipur. Getting the point there. So, tribal areas, you cannot simply blindly go and implement the law without giving prior consideration or due respect to the tribal sentiments there in that region. So that is how district collector's role is being defined, redefined. So it's basically a combination of features from MB1, MB2, MB3 with technology. Blend it properly and write up giving examples like old roles and new roles, and your answer is complete. Examine project Bharatmala Road to Prosperity, launched in 2017, 10 marks. So Bharatmala Road to Prosperity. So first of all, what is that project about? Bharatmala. Correct? How it is part of NPS and NPG. New public service, new public governance. Both of that. Then obviously, its impact. That's it. 10 mark question. So again, facts plus figures. That should be part of your answer. Coming to section B. The district training component of induction training of IAS officers requires to be revisited. Examine why this needs to be revisited. So the context behind it, that is the problem of what? The cadre system. Does it truly have an all India nature? Getting the point? And where you are posting them, and then how it is helping the IAS officers and why it is not helping the IAS officers. Both the context. Yes, no. So the purpose of district training is what? You get more used to the culture of the people, you get more used to the language, etc. But what is the problem with it? It is done at an elitist level. Not at a very ground level. Very at an elite level, the things are happening. Or sometimes there is no connect. So the problem here is what? Bureaucracy is not actually being connected with the public. or it ends up as a mere exercise. It requires to be revisited because of this nature. Yeah, it requires to be revisited because of its elitist level cut training, bureaucracy, and public connectors less, all of that. Then does not require to be revisited. Why? Because it is the revisitation does not mean a complete overhaul here. It is just that you need to revisit it according to what? According to the changing times. That is still maintaining the ghosts of colonial era. We cannot continue with bureaucracy, or IAS officers cannot continue to behave like the elitist class of bureaucracy. In that sense, it requires to be revisited. And most of the functions today, what is it? The reforms that we are looking for in the functioning of bureaucracy can be brought about by using technology. So once again, here bureaucracy is back in discussion. So you can talk about even include, throw in points of Weber here as well as the critics of Weber. That also you can throw in. It is left to you whom you want to place where. That is the idea. Clear, people? Mission Antyodaya strives to realize the vision of poverty-free India. Examine. So obviously, what is this Antyodaya scheme about? So, if you look into the Antyodaya scheme, a poverty-free India, all right, one of the major goals of the government since the time of Planning Commission, from Planning Commission to Niti Aayog, one thing that has not changed is what? To end poverty. So it has been a very, very long-term goal. All right, to what extent Antyodaya has, helped in it? So again, you need what? Facts and figures. So it's almost like sometimes one best solution to improve the outcome of malnourishment in the country is to end poverty once and for all. That is why you have come out with a single scheme, Mission Antyodaya. So okay, one best method you are bringing it back again. Agreed. Otherwise also, why this method? Even according to classical theory, or even according to behavioral theorists, or even according to new public administration, or new public service, or new public governance, why Mission Antyodaya is important. That is the point. One best method to end poverty, behavioral theory. This is actually motivating not only the IAS officers but also motivates the local population to strive for what? Achieving proper nutrition. Then NPA, that is more active, proactive bureaucrats, etc. The involvement of people, the involvement of the local government, etc. How can you achieve poverty-free India? And again, facts and figures to validate it. It's a 10 marker. So yeah, you need not throw in all these theories, but yes, suitably you can add them. Clear? The dynamics of coalitions vary with the nature of leadership, political parties, and contemporary political conditions. Analyze. 10 marks again. So the dynamics of coalitions. So coalitions being formed and coalitions rupturing, then coming back again. This thing depends on the nature of leadership, political party, and contemporary political conditions. So for this you need examples of what? Ruling parties plus opposition who are a coalition at center but opponents at state. That is a basic idea here. So you need to give a few examples even from the past. You can give a few examples even from the present. So examples from the past means you can definitely give UPA 1, you can give UPA 2, you can give NDA, and then currently how these coalitions are being formed. Again, it's only a 10 marker. So dynamics of coalitions vary with the nature of leadership, political party, contemporary political condition. Analyze this statement. Like, do you agree with it that this coalitions is a result of these three? Exactly. It has always been a result of the type of leadership, the type of political party, and contemporary political conditions. Because it is not just about simply forming a coalition. It is also about where ideologically they should be able to reach some middle ground. So here we are basically talking about this part is conflict resolution. They're able to resolve their conflicts in an amicable way where both of them end up as win-win, then a coalition will definitely form. Where they're able to form a middle ground, then a coalition is definitely going to happen. So that middle ground is the most important thing there. That way you can put it up. So thus Foley is coming into the picture here. Computerization of treasuries has revolutionized the accounting and budget planning process. Comment. That is the PFMS system that we talk about, the public fund management system. Then, so you can talk about the PFMS system here, how public fund management system has helped in what? Streamlining the process. That is, revolution accounting and budget planning process means each department how much fund is allocated. Each department fund allocation. Then, how e-office and other budgetary systems has helped in what? Has helped in maintaining the budget of every department for each and what purpose it is. Budget allocation, all of that is being made possible today. So the advantage is what? Advantage, there is no, you have, the March rush has been considerably reduced. That is the single most biggest advantage, because everybody knows what fund is available for what purpose and they're supposed to be utilizing it judiciously. Clear, people? Do you agree that code of ethics and code of conduct for ministers would help in upholding higher standards of their constitutional and ethical conduct? Explain. Now this is a very, very, very interesting question, because this almost looks like an ethics paper question. But needless to say, ethics in governance, that is the second ARC report, is what the source of this is. So code of ethics and code of conduct for ministers would help in upholding higher standards of their constitutional and ethical conduct. That means you're again focusing on what? You're creating a structure. Structure based on code of ethics. And you're creating a code of conduct. That is, this is what a minister is supposed to do. This is what a minister is not supposed to do. You're creating a structure. But ultimately, whether they will follow the structure or not will depend upon what? The informal settings, the informal groups, the socialization that is happening. Like with what people are they being associated with? Then obviously the psychological and emotional aspect of the minister. These things will ultimately determine into what level the minister is going to behave. So you can create any code of conduct, any code of ethics that you want. But ultimately, just like a bureaucrat will bring his personality to the job that he is holding, a minister also will bring his personality there. And the minister also, just like a bureaucrat, is prone to what? The informal relationships made during the course of their career, the socialization with whom that they're having, that is with their colleagues, with their superiors, with their subordinates. Then the psychological emotional component of the minister. Then obviously the intrinsic as well as extrinsic motivational factors of the minister in question. So all of this will ultimately determine, not that the code of ethics and code of conduct, they can give a structure, a framework, that's it. But more importantly, these are the factors that will affect. As you can clearly see, we have brought in the classical theory, we have brought in the behavioral theory, we have brought in the motivational theories, we have brought in the behavioral, psychosocial aspect also. Clear, people? So organically, we have tried to include what? Theory from paper 1. And yes, you can give examples of ministers who have died without even having a single rupee in their bank account. You can also talk about what? MLAs who have ended up becoming the richest MLAs of either the state or of that of the country. Clear? So again, validation should be there. You should not end up writing it like a GS paper 4. Getting the point here? It is a public administration paper. That is where you have to include these. Civil service reforms along with the transparent transfer policy will go a long way in insulating civil servants from undesired political pulls and pressures. Discuss. Now, this is a question where easily most people will end up writing, politicians are doing that, this, etc. But always understand, always on any day, political executive will always have the upper hand over civil servants. So here again you have what your politics administration dichotomy coming into picture. You are also having what you also need to explain about the second ARCs and the different committees. What have they suggested? So all that information are going to come over here. And obviously, crucial examples of IAS officers who have been transferred a lot. Like for example, now very recently, in the state of Kerala, IAS Association as well as two acting civil servants have filed petition in the CAT, Central Administrative Tribunal, against the state government of Kerala for frequent transfers. So that you can mention there. So all these current affair matter should reflect here, along with what theory part also. Little bit of theory should always reflect in your answer. Otherwise, it will end up looking like what? A general studies paper. The withdrawal of AFSPA from Tripura has sent a positive signal across the state and northeastern region. Do you think that now it is an appropriate time to take a more rational policy decision in this matter? So this is a very interesting question, because this question can bring out what? Can bring out the activist inside you. So activists will generally say, yes, it is an appropriate time to take a more rational policy decision. Why? Because AFSPA, it was so violent, it had created a lot of distance, etc. But if you actually notice it, the problem is AFSPA did have its uses in reducing violence. AFSPA did have its uses in reducing violence. The only problem with AFSPA was in ensuring accountability. So the moment the central government's permission was required in prosecuting the officer in question, that time there was a delay more often than not in granting this permission. That was a major controversy with regard to AFSPA. But having said that, today AFSPA has helped in what? Reducing the amount of violence in most of the places. And yes, army has been replaced with what? Paramilitary forces or central armed police forces. So army's presence has been reduced. More of administration has taken over. So withdrawal of AFSPA from Tripura has sent a positive signal across the state. Means we are talking clearly about what? We are clearly talking about an open system here. An open system that is constantly taking what? If the input was AFSPA initially, you had an output for it. But the output today tells you, based on the feedback that you're getting, the output is telling you that this is no more necessary. That is, it is important to maintain equilibrium and to reduce entropy. The best choice to do today is tone down AFSPA, at least in a few selected districts. And that way show people what? Governance. So the gun trotting image is being replaced by what? With good governance, e-governance, etc. And that way, what is it? Policy decision is being revamped. That's it. One cannot dispense away with AFSPA completely, as witnessed in the violent episodes that have evoked, that have recently started even in Manipur. We can clearly see what sometimes, whether it literally made the question come out that should we have had AFSPA there in Manipur? Getting the picture? So that way you need to put it up. You cannot tone it down completely, because almost when there was a discussion that AFSPA needs to be completely taken out, serving army officers as well as ex-army officers together filed a petition in the Supreme Court telling that AFSPA cannot be toned down. AFSPA's powers should not be taken away. So if officers are saying that, people who have literally been in the situation, people who have literally seen death in the eyes, you must understand that you cannot completely remove AFSPA from the picture. Getting the point here? So it is easy to say such things when we are sitting comfortably at home, but not when obviously we are facing the music. That is the bottom line. So you must try to paint it in such a way. You must put your answer in such a way that where you don't try to show that AFSPA is completely bad. Even if you mention initially, which is the best way to do it, initially why AFSPA is bad, why AFSPA, what are the problems with AFSPA, and now why things are starting to improve, what were the benefits of AFSPA, and yes, recent incidents in the past in Manipur literally made it feel, because even after sending in the police, even after sending in, giving powers to the police or the, what is it, Assam Rifles or whatever we sent over there, still things were not subsiding. Still the violence was not subsiding. So it literally made people feel that maybe if we had, something, even though AFSPA is often portrayed in the media as draconian, if we had AFSPA, maybe would things have been different? There was one side of the argument. So that is the point here. So the context here is that according to the situation, things will evolve. So if tomorrow the situation demands, AFSPA can be brought in. Clear? The Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is by far the most significant cleanliness campaign by the government of India. Comment. Why it is significant and why it was not so significant. So the first part of it is, it is not so significant. It was not so significant. Why? ODF still continues to be a threat. Open defecation, sorry, not ODF. The Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is by far the most significant cleanliness campaign by the government of India. Comment. So why it is the most significant? Why it is not so significant? So why it is significant? Again, the reasons for it. Why it is not so significant? Policy formulation remained at the top level only, not from the grassroots level. Say for example, the cultural practices, it still continues unabated. The manual scavenging part that is associated, the social evil of manual scavenging still continues unabated. The caste system in the country, that is the grassroots, that is the problem in the country. So that has not been addressed. Rather, it has been tried to be sugar coated. But all said and done, this is a end of the point is what? It is the right step forward, because it is not so easy to differentiate the different problems. That is, differentiation and integration is what you are going to throw in here. That is, first you will take care of all the caste problems, eradicate caste in the society, tell people that we are all equal, make very strict laws for manual scavenging, discourage all those people, change the social behavior, then empower the women also. You do one by one all of this, then you integrate all of this. How much time it is going to take? It is not practical. Rather than that, it is more easier to give a shock to the system, pulling them up, because now you are forced to build it up. So you are using social campaigns, you are using behavioral campaigns, etc., to change the pattern and slowly make everybody have a toilet. So once everybody have a toilet, which is again a wet latrine, then what is the advantage? Automatically manual scavenging will come to a stop, or at least reduce. That is the point. You create a solution, what you want to achieve. That is different. That you cannot achieve by changing the people's behavior, like differentiation. Slowly, step by step, you wait for changes to happen at multiple levels and then integrate it into the society. That is not so easy. Rather, you straight away go for one single solution and slowly make the differentiation possible. That is why it is a very relevant theory. Program. Accountability of the executive to the parliament in the domain of financial administration is secured through CAG reports. Discuss. Direct question. You can use recent CAG reports. This is important why this CAG reporting, etc., is so important, because this ensures what? Transparency plus accountability. Clear? Throw in a few thinkers' names here who have advocated for transparency and accountability, and your job is done. The government response to the Supreme Court's judgment on police reforms has been lackadaisical. The reasons are multiple and multidimensional. Discuss. So, what was the Supreme Court's judgment on police reforms? Increasing the strength of the police, regulating their work hours, etc., etc. Why it has been lackadaisical? The reasons are multiple and multidimensional. Discuss those reasons, discuss those multidimensional angles. Correct? So, put it up. Direct question again. So, discussing the problems, multidimensional, that is still easier. Overloaded work time, lack of technology, lack of poor training, lack of career advancements, all of that are the challenges. That is why lack of enthusiasm is there. All that you can put up. Later, towards the end of it, because it's a 20 marker, you should give the solutions also. Say, for example, Ribeiro Committee. Ribeiro Committee's police reforms, what did they suggest? All of that, or at least a few of it, should be mentioned. That is the only thing that you need to remember here. Clear? Disasters can push the world's poorest deeper into poverty. Do you think that a comprehensive strategy to deal with such vulnerabilities is required? So you can basically talk about international frameworks, that is to deal with disasters. Okay. So a comprehensive strategy, will it work? So a comprehensive strategy, when we are talking about again what? A single bullet. A single bullet. That is silver bullet as a solution for all the problems. That is generally not possible because each disaster has its unique behavior. Say, for example, in a country like India also, what is the problem there? You have low pressure regions, depression forming not only in the Bay of Bengal but also in the Arabian Sea. That is responsible for creating what? Multiple disasters. Now, this is the scenario. Do you think that a comprehensive strategy to deal with such vulnerabilities is required? We can learn the lessons and apply it again by filtering it. So what is required here? Once again, CPA. So disaster management has to be local, from the grassroots level. Collaboration or cooperation among multiple agencies or departments. Just like, for example, Odisha state government, how they collaborated with ISRO, where they used what? Maps to basically find out those regions where you always have high amount of disasters happening, and then accordingly they started devising their disaster management strategy. In the context of the second Administrative Reforms Commission recommendation, evaluate public-private partnership as a preferred mode of implementing infrastructural projects. Almost the same question had come in paper 1. But there the thing was, they basically told like private players taking the benefit of PPP. Here it is about evaluate PPP as a preferred mode of implementing infrastructural projects in the context of what second ARC has recommended. So second ARC's recommendation for PPP, what have they said? Based on that, you have to evaluate PPP for implementing infrastructural projects. So infrastructure means, please understand, it is not only about what? Roadways, railways, airports, etc. It includes both economic infrastructure and social infrastructure. That is a mistake that people can make here. When they say infrastructure, they take it for granted that, okay, I will only write about highway, I will only write about airport, I will only write about ports, seaport, etc. You have to also mention about the importance of PPP in education, in health sector. Clear, people? In 2011, India ratified the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Evaluate the existing legal framework for fulfilling this commitment. What and all institutions have we established as part of being the signatory to it? What are the laws that have been established? Responsibilities of Lokayukta, Lokpal, CVC, Central Vigilance Commission, CBI, etc. Now evaluate the existing legal framework. Today's scenario, what is the framework? So another point you can throw in here is This is the existing legal framework. You can mention all that. In addition to all this, what the government has done, government has basically sent home the non-performing officers as well as officers who have cases of corruption filed against them. Central government has sent them home on compulsory retirement. This is the other update. Getting the point? So existing legal framework, these are the points that you will throw. Because of UNCSE, what has happened, and in this last 7-8 years, what has the central government done to central government officers and all India service officers who have been non-performing, plus on whom charges of corruption, that is multiple charges of corruption are there, government has basically asked them to go home. So that also you will throw in there. Clear? Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission is a cluster-based approach of converging rural development efforts of different departments of the government. So, different departments are there, and for each of these departments, all of this is converging into Shyam Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission. So, what are these departments? What are these different departments that are coming over there? And what is the salient feature of SPMRM? That is the point here. Clear, people? So this converging part. So converging part, all these forming, you can mention it as what? You can bring in rigs here, FW rigs. Clear, people? So all that you can do, or you can even bring in garbage can model here. See, any thinker you can bring in to paper 2. The only point here is whether you are able to validate it and whether the thinker is being mentioned in a very organic manner in the paper. Clear? So that's it, people. With that, we come to an end of this paper 1 and paper 2 analysis. So bottom line, I will tell you, public administration, both the papers, when you see, one thing is becoming very evident, that since the last 3-4 years, it's more about what is your opinion and what is your interpretation. So if you actually ask me, starting from classical thinkers to Max Weber, to his critics, Marx and his critics, then behavioral thinkers, human relations school and behavioral thinkers, motivational thinkers, all this, when you take it up, you will easily get something close to maybe 15 to 20 thinkers. 15 to 20 thinkers in your hand with their theory well versed, that with examples if you have from the current affairs, your job becomes easy. Other than that, there is nothing much to it. Paper 1, you saw, it was all about your opinion only. Very 4 to 5 like direct questions on thinkers were there. Otherwise, it was all very blended type questions. Paper 2, again you saw, with the exception of 1 or 2 questions, everything was contemporary issues or current affair related issues. The only thing being that you cannot write it like a GS paper. You have to decide on which thinker are you going to place where. That is the idea. So I agree, in some cases I kept on repeating Taylorism. So you can talk about science of administration of any one person, any one thinker there. Getting the point here. The point is, every thinker try to focus on what classical thinker, one universal principle, one best solution, one single set of principles which you can apply everywhere. So that accordingly you need to place it up. That is the idea here. Clear, people? So what do you think about your take on this papers? What do you feel? Do you still feel that public administration is a tough optional? I will never ever say that. Telling you again and again, PubAd will become tough if you study it from the wrong person. The right person takes the syllabus, they will take it, blend it together, club the similar topics, take out the overlapping things, give it to you with examples, so that when you're doing paper 1 itself, paper 2 also gets done. All right, share your thoughts on the comment section. Take care.